Learning Zilili Nishmas Etta Ahuva Basakim Masechet Sotah Perek Tes Mishna Ches. Eid Echad Omer Reisi Es HaHarig VeEid Echad Omer Lo Reisa. One aid says, I saw the murder, and the other person says that you didn't see it. So it's mavur from this Mishnah that if one aid said that he saw the Harig, then they wouldn't do the halacha, the whole parsha of Egla Rufa. Even with one aid he believed. And Gemara says the reason is because it says Leinoide mihi kahu. We don't know who killed. Hanoide mihi kahu, but we make a diak that if we do know, afilu echa b'seif ha'olam, even if it's just one person, lo yahya arfin, then already there wouldn't be an egla roof over here. So this Mishnah now corresponds with a Mishnah that we had earlier in the Masechta, Perek Vav Mishnah Daled, where over there we said an Eid Echad is believed, Eid Echad B'Tumah by Sotah was believed, and we had the same exact Mishnah in the Taisis Yantav as Mitzayin, that this Mishnah is the same as that Mishnah. So the halacha is like this: if Eid Echad Omer Reisi Es Ha'Erev Echad Omer Lo Reisa, or Isha Emeres Reisi, Isha Emeres Lo Reisa. So I would think that you go basa the third Eid Echad that said Reisi, he has halacha like two, and you would say that the second Eid now is Ein Dvarim Shalecha B'Makom Shnayim, and therefore the halacha would be that you wouldn't do the Egla Rufa. So that's one shita in the Mishnah. In the Gemara says that instead of Bigaris over here, Hayu Arfin, Bigaris Loi Hayu Arfin. The other shita in the Gemara is that no, that's dafka if it came b'zachar zeh. But over here, our Mishnah is talking about that they came at the same time. So now, Eid Echad Ba'Chashi, you throw them both out, and therefore you do the parsha of Egla Rufa. The second case in the Mishnah is Eid Echad Omer Reisi v'Shnayim Omer Lo Reisi. One says that I did see, and therefore there's no parsha of Egla Rufa. V'Shnayim Omer Lo Reisi. So now that two is equal to the one, and therefore you throw them out, and Hayu Arfin you do the Egla Rufa. And the last case is very pashut that if Shnayim Omer Reinu, if two people say Imam have two Eidim saying not to do Egla Rufa, v'Echad Omer Lehem Lo Reisa, then Lo Hayu Arfin, then you wouldn't do the Egla Rufa. Mishnah Tes Misha Rabu HaReitzchanim, in the time that of history in Klal Yisrael when there were a lot of murderers, from then on Batal Egla Rufa, they stopped doing Egla Rufa. And the reason is, Rashi says, because now they knew who, the pasuk says that you only do Egla Rufa if we don't know who the murderer was. But since there were so many murderers, they knew which groups of people were murdering, so it wasn't a suffix. And the Mishnah even tells us of one of those Reitzchim, his name was Eliezer. He's found in Maseches Ksuvas also. So the Mishnah says, Mishabah Eliezer ben Dunai, and the Mishnah says he has another name, V'tchina ben Perisha, Hayinikr, he was called that. And then he has a third name, Chazal L'Kreisa ben Haratzchan. So the Tiferes Yisrael explains that originally he was called Ben Denai because he was killing, he made these judgments that someone deserves Misa based on a little thing. But then he was killing even more than that. They called him Ben Prisha to stay away from him. And then finally they called him Ben Haratzchan, like this person is a notorious murderer, to be aware of him. The Mishnah says another thing that changed in history. Misharabu hamina afayim, when there were a lot of people that were being mizana, pasku amayim hamarim. Then they stopped doing the Sotah. Why? Because the Gemara says that the pasuk says v'nika ish me'avain, and we darshan bizmansha ish menuka me'avain hamayim bait genes ishtay. But if the man is guilty, if he's also busy with nos, ein ish menuka me'avain, ein hamayim bait genesay. And the Mishnah over here brings a different pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai hifsikan shenamar le'efkad al b'nai seichem kisez nanav al kaloi seichem kinsina afanu kihem. And as the Gemara explains that Amar lehem Navi Yisrael, the Navi told Kal Yisrael, Atem makbidem al atzmechem, if you're careful on yourselves not to be oisik and znos, not to be mizana, then mayim boitkin nesheisechem, then the water will be boidik your wives. V'im lav, but otherwise, eina mayim boitkin nesheisechem, the Sotah doesn't work, and therefore, once znus was a big problem, they were mafsik the Sotah. And the last thing the Mishnah says that changed in history in Klal Yisrael was Mishameis Yosi ben Yezer ish Sereda, the Yosi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim, when they died, Batul ha'ashkailas. The Gemara says, what does hashkailas mean? Ish shakol boy, a person that knew everything. His Torah was emes without any mistakes. So when these two Tanoim were nifter, it became Batul, Shenemar ein eshkalecho bikura ivsa nafshi, that there's no cluster of grapes here. And my nefesh, the Navi saying, was desiring for a grape. And Tais Yantav is Mitzayin, the Mishnah Chagiga, that says that it was at this point in history when Machloksim began in Klal Yisrael. The first Machlokes was with Smicha Bekarbanas and Yantav, and the Mishnah Chagiga began with these two Tanam.